Hello, my name is Bruce Webb, and I'm a pilot with Airbus Helicopters. Today, we will perform the exterior pre-flight check of an H145 in accordance with the Rotorcraft Flight Manual. Your helicopter may be fitted with different optional equipment. In such a case, you should refer to the respective flight manual supplement or maintenance manual to determine what additional pre-flight steps may be required. The complete pre-flight shall be performed before the first flight of the day. Thereafter, an abbreviated check is required between each flight. The items which must be completed for this abbreviated check are identified with an asterisk next to each line item on the checklist. However, we must remain vigilant to local conditions. The extent and frequency of the pre-flight shall be increased as necessary to promote safe operation. The pre-flight check is not a detailed mechanical inspection. Instead, it is a comprehensive visual check of the helicopter to ensure that it is in condition for safe flight. In case of doubt, or should anything appear out of the ordinary, damaged, or exhibit signs of unusual or excessive wear, you shall bring your concerns to the attention of maintenance prior to flight. The examples shown during this video are there to raise awareness which may help you to detect anomalies during the pre-flight. However, this video is not a substitute for comprehensive training. Before beginning the exterior pre-flight check, please ensure all the before exterior check items are completed. This includes confirming that all materials and documents are present and current, including, of course, the checklist. Also, because distractions are often the source of error, ensure that persons in the vicinity are aware that you are performing a pre-flight check and they should not interrupt you. Turn off your mobile phone and take any other steps necessary to eliminate distractions. Finally, remove any items on your person which may introduce FOD to the aircraft or the surrounding area. At the same time, I would encourage you to obtain a flashlight, clean rag, and perhaps a small mirror for use during the pre-flight. Remember, these items may also become FOD, so make certain that you have accounted for each one after you are finished with the pre-flight. Before we begin, we should define a couple of words which are used repeatedly. The first word is condition. We are looking to ensure that the item has no external damage and is properly seated or installed. The second word, secured, requires us to check that the lock wire, cotter pin, latch, or other means of securing is properly installed. Okay, well, let's begin. So let's begin the pre-flight check. We'll open the checklist to exterior check. We'll begin on the right-hand side of the helicopter. The first item on the checklist is the NACA cockpit air intake, located just here to ensure that it is clear and unobstructed. Just below it and slightly aft is the OAT sensor. We want to check that it is in good condition, that it is clear, undamaged. Additionally, while in this area, check the shield which protects the OAT sensor. Make sure that it is secure and undamaged as well. We'll move up to the door now, the pilot's door. We want to check the hinges, the hinge pins, the general area of the door for condition. Make sure it's undamaged. The window as well to ensure it's properly installed and undamaged. We can go ahead and open the pilot's door so that we may check the pilot door window or the cockpit window to ensure that it opens and closes smoothly. We do this because we want to make sure that there's not debris in the track which would inhibit its use, and also to ensure that the material or the felt that's in the track is there and in good condition so that there is sufficient friction on the window so that it doesn't vibrate open and closed in flight. Once we're finished with the door, we can go ahead and climb inside the aircraft. Here we want to check that the battery master switch is in the off position. We also want to ensure that the pilot seat and safety belt is in good condition and functions correctly. So I normally just go ahead and put the safety belt on to check to make sure each latch works correctly. I move the seat forward and aft to ensure that it securely seats in each intermediate position. The same with up and down. I'll move the seat up and down to ensure that it latches in each intermediate position correctly. Finally, I'll check the small snap wire on the door jettison handle on the right-hand side of the cockpit just as we're exiting the aircraft. Let's continue with the sliding door on the right-hand side. We want to check for condition and function of the door, and not just the door, but also the window, the emergency exit window here, to ensure that the door seal is in proper order, that the window is clean as well. We want to make sure that the door latch handle works correctly. So again, push in a little bit on the door, you can open the handle. Before I open the door any further though, I would caution you to make sure that these steps are closed. Because if they're not closed, the door will in fact strike the maintenance steps. So ensure these are both closed. Then to open the door, we can now check the function of the door as it slides open. We have another step in the back. Again, we want to ensure it's up. In this case, the door should not strike the maintenance step. There should be just a small amount of clearance here, which is ensured by this stop on the door rail, which stops the sliding door from colliding with this maintenance step. However, the distance or the space is very small, so I would encourage you to make absolutely certain the step is not going to be struck by the door. So we can go ahead now, we'll close the maintenance step, we'll close the door. And now we can continue on with the landing gear. We'll continue with the landing gear and step now. So we want to ensure that the cross tube and the fitting which actually attaches the cross tube to the airframe are in good repair, undamaged, no cracking, that the bolts which hold this fitting and the cross tube in place are in good repair. The step itself is secure, undamaged. This lower fitting, this foot where the cross tube connects to the actual skid tube, ensure it is undamaged, no cracking. And the 4 bolts, there are 4 bolts which actually hold 4 clamps. Check those as well to make sure they're secure. And finally, because this aircraft has the fixed provisions for a hoist installed, we have a cable deflector installed on the right side of the aircraft, so ensure that it is secure and undamaged as well. Of course, we want to take a look at the right rear landing gear assembly as well. So we're looking at the same types of structures, look for cracks, condition, security, just like we did in the front. As we move along the right side of the fuselage, we want to pay close attention to the actual structure. We want to look at the rivets and the aluminum panels between the rivets to ensure that there is no oil canning or deformation between these rivet lines, which would be indication of potential damage. So again, you're looking for the rivets to be secure and not working or loose. If a rivet becomes loose, it starts to work, you'll typically have a black residue around the rivet. That's indication that you have a problem. As we come to the area above the aft cross tube, this is an area which takes a tremendous amount of load, so you want to pay close attention here for any potential deformation or damage. While we're in this area, we can see the 2 drain ports. Make sure they're clear and unobstructed. In addition, this static drain port should be capped. And finally, in this area, we want to look at the underside of the aircraft, at any antennas to make sure that they are secure and undamaged. Now we'll take a look at the pilot windscreen, the upper area of the windscreen for condition and cleanliness. In this area, we will also find the upper wire strike cutter, the wire strike protection system cutter. It's a good chance to check it for condition and security, as well as any antennas that are in this area. Check them as well. Now we're at the right-hand side hydraulic access door. We're going to open it in a moment and do our checks in the hydraulic area. But before we do, I want to point out something on this particular helicopter. It has anti-skid paint here, anti-skid paint, which allows you to stand here with a maximum of 130 kilos. So you could have 130 kilos up on top. It's painted on both sides of the hydraulic access area. So be aware, if your ship has this anti-skid paint, you may step on top. If it does not, you may not. So let's go ahead and open the panel. Now that we have access to the hydraulic system, we can take a few minutes and look at the general area here for condition and security, lack of debris, lack of foreign objects. It should be clean, clear of any fluid, no leaks. I usually use a light, also my hands and touch. It's a good way to check in this area. We want to check to ensure that each of the hydraulic actuators are in good condition, no leakage. We will check the hydraulic system reservoirs themselves, the fluid quantity indicators here. I check the sight glasses on both of those as well to ensure that air fills less than half of the sight glass. We want to check that on system number 1 and system number 2. We'll check the control rods as they come off of each actuator up to the mixing lever assembly. Each of the SEMAs, we want to check the smart electrical mechanical actuators. And finally, the input control levers, they should move fore and aft. The pitch should move fore and aft. The collective shouldn't move at all, and the roll should be able to be moved fore and aft. Now, because this helicopter has an inlet barrier filter installed, it is easier, I believe, to see the mixing lever assembly from this position rather than from the transmission access bay, which we're going to come to in a few minutes. So I like to look at the mixing lever assembly here before moving on. Before opening the transmission compartment access door, let's take a look in this area. Here we can see clearly the hydraulic pump. We want to check for condition and no leakage. The oil cooler fan inlet screen, that it is clear, unobstructed. The oil cooler fan itself for condition, no foreign objects, no leaks around that area. And finally, the main transmission oil level. We can see that the fluid is between the min and the max line. Now we are at the access door for the right-hand transmission cowling. We'll go ahead and open the door. From this position, we have a clearer view of the transmission deck and all the items on the right-hand side of the transmission. So we'll take a look for general condition and security to ensure there's no debris, no FOD, no leakage, no fluids leaking here in the entire area. More specifically, we can look and check to see that the hydraulic reservoir for the rotor brake is serviced properly, that there are no leaks, and that the cap is installed correctly. We can also check that the filter for the main rotor gearbox on the right-hand side, that the filter, the pin which extends to indicate that the filter is clogged, that pin should be flush, it should be recessed. So we can check that from this position. We can also check the inlet duct for the oil cooler itself to include the front face of the oil cooler or the inlet side of the oil cooler. We can check the oil cooler itself to include the insulation and the safety wire which secures the insulation, that is in good repair. We'll check the back side of the oil cooler for similar cleanliness, and actually into the ductwork and the door of the transmission area. Additionally, just below the oil cooler, we have the number 2 engine oil reservoir. We can check that it is secure, that it is not leaking, that the fluid is between the add and the full line, that the cap is secure, and that the drain is secure and no leaks. Additionally, we can reach forward from the oil tank and grasp one of the main transmission struts that holds the transmission in position. It should be secure but free to rotate. Same for the aft strut, so there's a strut just aft of the oil reservoir. We want to check again that it is free to rotate but secure. We can look up to the top of the main rotor gearbox from this position and see the main rotor gearbox filler cap to ensure that it is seated and the 2 red alignment marks line up. We can also look into the inlet for the starter generator, so we want to make sure the screen is clear and unobstructed and that the fan and the tunnel is clear and clean and undamaged. Because this helicopter has an engine inlet barrier filter system, we want to check that the drain on the aft portion is clear and unobstructed, that the forward drain is unobstructed, that the alternate air door is in good condition, and that the screen at the alternate air door is clear and unobstructed. Finally, as we shut this door, we can look on top and see that the actual barrier filter screen is clear and unobstructed. Now we're up on the rotor head. So let's begin by checking the swash plate for condition and security, no damage, no excess grease up here, that the stationary swash plate is clear as well and in good condition. We'll check the rotating control rods. We want to check them that they are undamaged, no tooling marks, no dents, dings. Also, the spherical bearings to ensure that they rotate smoothly, that they're in good condition, both the top and the bottom spherical bearing. Pay close attention here. Again, they should rotate very smooth, very freely. Additionally, we want to check the security of these items, safety wire, cotter keys, etc. The drive links, we want to check the drive links to ensure that they are secure, both of the drive links. We'll check the actual blade pins or the blade retention bolts, make sure they're in good position and secure and that their safeties are installed. We will check the actual rotor head, again for any damage. So look here closely at the upper and lower portion of the rotor head itself where the blade pins or the blade bolts fit. We want to ensure that the bonding braids are all in good condition and secure. We'll check the lead lag dampers for condition, ensuring that there's no cracking, there's no avulsions, that they are secure and in good condition. As well, we want to look down the FCUs, the flex control unit. We used to call them a cuff. We want to look down the FCU of each blade to ensure there's no debris, no FOD in this area. We'll also look at the rotor cap as well to ensure it's secure and undamaged. Finally, we'll look at the rotor blade itself, the leading edge, the trailing edge, the upper and lower portions, again for no damage, and the PRU tape to ensure it's well seated, no blisters. And finally, the trim tabs on the trailing edge near the end of the blade to ensure they're in good condition as well. Now we're at the engine access door on the right-hand side. We can go ahead and open the engine compartment door. Once the door is open, we have a clear, unobstructed view of the engine deck, of the engine in general. We want to check for cleanliness, absence of FOD or any debris on the engine deck. There should be no fluid, no liquids here. It should be clear, unobstructed. We want to ensure that the engine to transmission drive shaft is in good repair, it's in good condition. We'll reach in and we'll rotate the shaft to ensure that the freewheeling unit works correctly. So as we rotate the shaft one direction, the freewheeling unit will allow the shaft to turn without turning the main rotor blades. While doing this, we can feel the shaft to ensure that there are no machine marks, no tooling marks, no dents, dings, deformation. At the same time, we can see the 4 bolts which connect the shaft flange to the output flange from the engine to ensure those 4 bolts are tight, the torque seal is lining up. And again, just general condition of that shaft, but take a few moments and check closely. When you're finished checking the freewheeling unit, you can roll the shaft the opposite direction. It's more difficult, but you can turn the shaft the opposite direction and you'll notice that the main rotor blades turn. So we want to see all of that before proceeding. We'll move up from there to the bleed valve hose. We want to ensure it's connected both at the bottom to the bleed valve and to the top to the cowling itself. This hose allows hot gas, hot bleed valve gas to exhaust through the top of the cowling. So we want to make sure that that hose is well connected to the cowling itself on top and to the bleed valve at the bottom. If the aircraft has been in maintenance recently, check a little more closely at the top of that bleed valve hose because it's not uncommon for someone to put the cowling back on and forget to install the hose and to torque it. So pay a little more attention there if maintenance has been occurring. As we move down from there, we'll check the things like the igniter box, the connectors to the igniter box, all of the connectors in general, the pipes, the tubes, the hoses, just general condition and security of all of these items. Again, there should be no leakage. Everything should be clean and dry. As we move down near the bottom here, we should check the forward engine mounts. You can see the outboard one very good, so you can see if the bushing is in good repair. I typically grasp it and shake just a little bit just to ensure that it is firm and well seated, that the bolts are in place, they're cotter keyed. So again, condition and security of the structure itself. As I continue to move aft at the bottom, you'll see the rear engine mount. There are 3. There are 2 engine mounts at the front, 1 at the back. So we want to check the back engine mount again for condition and security. We'll move forward from the back engine mount and we'll come up to the fuel drain collector and drain pipes. So we want to ensure that that collector is secure, that it should be dry, there should be no fluid there, and all the pipes are connected well. Everything is, in good condition. If we move forward to the lower portion in the front, you will see the engine wash system, the hose fitting for the engine wash system. The plug should be well seated and engaged. Again, as we sweep further aft to the rear of the engine, we want to check that the forward portion of the exhaust nozzle or the exhaust pipe is secure, undamaged, and in good condition. And finally, before closing anything up, just take another broad, general look in this entire area. Ensure it's in good condition. Then we can go ahead and close this cowling. After closing the engine compartment door, let's climb on top one last time. We want to check the 2 engine compartment air openings. There are 2, one located fore and aft on the cowling. as well as the bleed valve exhaust port area up on top of the cowling. We want to ensure that area is clear and unobstructed as well. Once we're satisfied those areas are in good condition, let's go ahead and climb back down, shut the maintenance steps, and resume with the EPU. Now we're at the EPU door. Just behind this door is the actual EPU receptacle. We'll depress this button to release the latch and open the door. Here we see the actual receptacle, the external power circuit breaker, and the headset plug. This allows us to plug a headset into the aircraft, so when you're stationed here, you can communicate with people in the aircraft through the intercom system. If you're choosing to use an external power unit, an EPU plug, ensure that the plug is energized prior to plugging it into the helicopter. So, plug is powered, plug it into the aircraft. Once you're finished using the EPU, it should remain powered. The EPU should still be providing power to this plug prior to removing the plug. So once you've removed the plug, then you can shut the EPU power down. So again, for perfect clarity, the plug must be powered, then installed into the aircraft. The plug is then removed, and then you can shut power off to the EPU plug. Let's go ahead and close the door, latch it, and move on to the battery. As we move aft towards the battery compartment, this is a great opportunity to look at the avionics bay ventilation for the right-hand side of the aircraft to make sure that it is clear and unobstructed. We see here just below the battery compartment door, the static ports, the two static ports. Again, we want to ensure they're clear and unobstructed. We can go ahead and open the battery compartment door now. We want to ensure that the battery is in good condition and undamaged, that the actual connector is in place and secure, that the temperature probe is in place and secure. I actually like to grasp the battery and try to jostle it just to ensure it's firmly seated. We also want to check the two drain tubes fore and aft of the battery to ensure they're in position and unobstructed. And finally, we don't want to see any liquid or any electrolyte in this area, which could be an indication of a problem. I'll also look with my light in this general area to ensure it is free of foreign objects or any kind of debris. Once we're satisfied that this area is in good condition, we can go ahead and shut the battery compartment door and latch it. Now we can look at the aft engine cowling on the right-hand side, this entire cowling, checking the cam locks to ensure that they're in place, that there's no damage done to the cowling. Moving up, we can see the number 2 engine exhaust pipe. Again, we want to check general condition of that pipe to ensure there's no foreign objects or debris in this area and that the pipe is in good condition. We'll move down now to the fire extinguisher system discharge indicator. We want to make sure that the red disc is in place and undamaged. We'll move up and look inside each of these 2 windows to see the fire bottle pressure indicators. We want to compare the pressure we see in the bottles against the outside air temperature to ensure that the bottles are correctly serviced. We've arrived at the clamshell doors. We want to check the condition, security, and function of both doors. We'll begin by checking the external portion of the door to ensure that it is undamaged, no cracking, no deformations, that the window is clean, clear, unobstructed, undamaged. Once we've confirmed that for both clamshell doors, we can go ahead and kneel down, release the bottom latch, the center latch, and the upper latch. Allow the doors to open. There are pneumatic extenders which will hold each door open in that position. While we're here, it's a good opportunity to check the ADELT, the Automatic Deployable Emergency Locator Transmitter. It is an option on this particular helicopter, so check the condition, the security of this ADELT. Now we will check the internal portion of each door. We'll check the hinge area. There are 4 bolts which hold the top hinge in position. The same for the bottom hinge. We want to check this area for any cracking, any damage. The door opener, the pneumatic opener, to ensure it's in good repair. The door seal itself to ensure it's well secured. The window, again, the external portion of the window to ensure there's no cracking around the periphery where the bolts hold it in place. On this door, we have the first aid kit. We want to ensure that it is current so that we know it's okay to use, and also that it has been unused, so the tab is in place to show that it's not been opened. We want to check the ADELT arming switch. It's cleverly designed such that when the switch is not armed, this panel does not close. So we will arm the ELT and close the panel. We can move forward now and check that the upper avionics bay is secure. There are several fasteners here we can check. 6 total fasteners to ensure they're in good condition and tight, so the avionics bay is secure. On the right-hand door, we want to check the upper hinge area, the lower hinge area as well, the door extender, just like on the other side, the door seal, the window. Again, just for condition, security, to make sure everything looks appropriate. Before closing the clamshell doors, I take a moment to ensure there's nothing on the floor that may extend out as I attempt to close the doors, which may provide an impediment to closing the doors, or worse, may be outside the airframe and damage the airframe in forward flight. As I close the clamshell doors, I ensure that the doors are in good alignment by using my thumb. I latch the bottom latch, the center latch, then the top latch. Again, double check that nothing is extending out of the door. And now we can move on and check the hinges. So we want to check the upper and lower hinge of each door to ensure that the bolt is in place and secured, it's cotter keyed, that the airframe portion of the hinge is in good repair and undamaged, no cracking, and that the door portion of the hinge is in good repair, no cracking, undamaged. Here we are at the tail boom now. We'll begin at the forward portion of the tail boom and move aft. We want to check the condition of the tail boom, pay close attention that there's no damage, no dents, dings, delamination, any cracking, things of that nature. As we look, I also look up at the tail rotor drive shaft cover on top of the tail boom to ensure that it is in proper position and that the cam locks are all seated. Coming back, and on the bottom of the boom, we see the radar altimeter antennas. We want to make sure that this plate is well secured, that the antennas are secure, and that the drain holes behind each antenna are clear and unobstructed. The VOR antenna, again, that it is secure, installed correctly, undamaged. Moving further aft, we have another antenna and the plate itself. We want to ensure the antenna and the plate are secure and that the drain holes are clear and unobstructed. Continuing further aft, we have the multi-purpose lights. We want to ensure that they are secure, clean, and that the fairing which encases them is properly installed as well. And finally, at the back of the tail boom on the lower portion, there are 2 drain holes. We want to ensure they are clear and unobstructed as well. Let's have a look at the horizontal stabilizer. We want to check the general condition and security of this. So I typically grasp at the leading and trailing edge, and I wiggle it just a little bit to ensure that it's securely attached. I also want to check the underside, leading and trailing edge to ensure no damage, the starboard position light for condition and that it is undamaged and that the lens is secure as well. I then typically run my hand down the leading and trailing edge, the full length of the stabilizer, coming to the attachment bolt to ensure that it is secure, that the castellated nut is tight and the cotter key is installed. And finally, that the bonding braid or the bonding jumper at the rear of the stabilizer is installed and in good condition. As I come back outboard, I run my hand down the top of the horizontal stabilizer. It's easy for FOD to exist in this area and for it to be undetected. I'm not tall enough to see on top of the stabilizer, so I must use my hand. But if you have any doubt that there may be debris or some object on top of the stabilizer, please take time to check closely. We've now arrived at the Fenestron. We want to begin our check by looking at the forward lower portion of the Fenestron. This helicopter has a forward-facing rear camera installed, so we want to ensure the condition of this camera, the cleanliness of the lens, etc. We also want to check this bumper on the lower portion of the Fenestron to ensure it's well attached and that it is undamaged, no cracking, no deformation at all. We'll then look at the entirety of the Fenestron, the whole structure, to ensure that we have no mechanical damage, no dents, no deformation, no cracking, anything of that nature. So take a few moments and look closely at this side of the Fenestron. We also want to ensure that the Fenestron rotor itself is centrally located in the structure. We do this by ensuring that the dimension between the Fenestron blades and the Fenestron itself are uniform around the diameter of the Fenestron. We also want to ensure that each blade is undamaged. So I run my hand on the back side of the blade with my palm on the leading or trailing edge and my fingers on the leading or trailing edge. I do this on both sides of the blade, and I also rotate the blade slightly to ensure that it is free to rotate. Just free, it's not bound. We want to do this on all of the blades, so you can gently rotate the blades one by one into position so you can look visually and feel for any damage of the Fenestron blades. We can also now check that the Fenestron fairing has not rotated within the hub itself. We can check these alignment marks. There's a red mark on the fairing and a red mark on the hub. We want to ensure that this fairing, or commonly called a hubcap, has not rotated, and that each of these 6 bolts are in good position and that there's no cracking around those attachment bolts. Once we're finished in this area, we can step back and see the back of the Fenestron, ensure that the aft position light is in good condition, and look up to the top of the Fenestron, to the top of the vertical fin, and ensure that the anti-collision light is in good condition as well. Now we're on the left-hand side of the Fenestron. Here we want to check the entirety of the Fenestron structure, just as we did on the right side. We're checking for condition, no damage, no cracking, things of that nature. We also want to check on this side each of the 10 stators to ensure that they're in good condition and secure. We'll use a light to shine inside the tail rotor cover. Here we can see the oil level in the tail rotor gearbox to ensure it's between the min and the max line. We can also see the tail rotor actuator and check for any leakage and just the general condition of the actuator. Finally, we'll check the tail rotor gearbox cover to ensure that it is in good condition and installed firmly, seated well. As we continue down the left side of the helicopter, we'll check the horizontal stabilizer as we did on the right side, the tail boom itself, of course, for condition, the tail rotor drive shaft cover, and of course, any antenna that are on this side, we'll check those for general condition as well. Moving forward, we can check the left-hand aft engine cowling. Again, we want to check it for general condition. Also for security to ensure each of these cam locks are well seated. Moving up from there, we want to look at the left-hand or the number 1 engine exhaust pipe to ensure it's in good condition. No foreign objects in that area. As we move down from there, we can see the 2 static ports. Again, they should be clear and unobstructed. Moving slightly forward, we can see the clamshell door hinges on the left side, the external portion of the hinges. We want to check those just as we did on the right side. Moving a little bit forward from there, it's a good opportunity to check the avionics bay ventilation to ensure that this vent on the left side is clear and unobstructed. Now let's check the landing gear on the left side of the helicopter. We want to check it just as we did the right-hand side. It's a duplication. So take your time, look at the landing gear and step, etc. In the same way we check the right side. Let's continue now on the left side of the fuselage. We want to check for general condition of the fuselage itself. It should be undamaged, no dents, no dings, no big scratches. We're checking for things just like we did on the right side. We want to check the drain ports here, the 2 drain ports, to ensure that they are clear and unobstructed. We want to check the static drain port to ensure that it is capped. As we move forward, we want to check that this other drain port is clear and unobstructed. The antenna on the lower side of the aircraft is secure and undamaged. We want to go ahead and open the fuel filler door, so we'll press this button to release the door. We'll check the cap for security to ensure it is fitted tightly. We'll close the door, depress the button to secure the door in the closed position. We want to ensure that is the case because the next item on the checklist is to open the sliding door. And just as we discussed earlier on the right side, if you open the left-hand sliding door with these 2 maintenance steps open or with this fuel filler door open, you will likely damage the door or doors. So ensure that it is closed before opening the sliding door. We can go ahead now and open the left-hand sliding door. Once the door is open, we can check each seat and safety belt in the cabin to ensure that they are in good condition and function properly. Additionally, we want to ensure that any loose items are secured. When that is complete, we can go ahead and close the sliding door. Now we are at the co-pilot door on the left side of the helicopter. Here we want to check the condition and function of the door just as we did on the pilot or the right-hand side of the helicopter. Upon entering the aircraft, we want to look at the seat and the seat belts. We want to check the condition and function of the seat and seat belts just like we did on the right-hand side of the helicopter. A slight difference here is that if you are not going to have a passenger or another pilot in the left front seat, then you should attach the seat belts and leave them secured in the front seat. Don't leave them open and unsecured. Once we're complete inside the cockpit, we can shut the pilot door and look just below the door to the OAT sensor. We want to check the condition of this sensor and the guard or the shield which surrounds it, just as we did on the right-hand side. Additionally, in this area, we have a NACA inlet, very similar to the one on the right-hand side of the helicopter. The difference being this NACA inlet has a plug inside the inlet. You'll see it, it's white, and that plug is installed when the helicopter has an air conditioning system. So if it does not have an air conditioning system, the NACA inlet will be clear and unobstructed. But should it have an air conditioning system, expect to see this plug. Before opening the engine compartment door, this is a great opportunity to check the two air openings located on the door itself and the bleed valve vent located on top of the cowling. We want to ensure they're clear and unobstructed. Now we've arrived at the left-hand engine compartment. We want to check this area just as we did the right-hand engine compartment. Again, checking for general condition, security, lack of leaks, no foreign objects, no debris, cleanliness. Take a light, spend a little time checking closely. When we're finished here, we can close the access door and move on to the left-hand transmission area. Before opening the transmission compartment access door, we want to ensure that the air opening in the door itself is clear and unobstructed. This is actually where the air from the oil cooler is expelled. Once we've opened the transmission area access door, we can clearly see the left side of the transmission. We want to check this area in the same way that we did the right-hand side. Again, general condition, security, cleanliness, lack of foreign objects and debris. The only notable exception is on the left side of the transmission, we do not have a rotor brake hydraulic reservoir. So that only exists on the right-hand side. Now we're at the left-hand oil cooler inlet area. We want to check the inlet screen, the oil cooler inlet screen, to ensure that it is clear and free, unobstructed. The oil cooler fan itself, that it is in good condition and undamaged. The hydraulic pump, to ensure there's no leaks. And also general condition of the area to ensure there's no FOD, no debris, etc. We can move forward then to the hydraulic area. We want to check this area in the same way that we did the right-hand side. Again, general condition, security, everything should be undamaged, lack of foreign objects, lack of debris, and no leaks. Finally, we've arrived at the nose area. It's our final station. Here, we want to ensure that the windscreens, the front portion and the lower portion of the co-pilot and pilot windscreens are in good condition and clean, undamaged. We also want to check that the windshield wiper is in good condition and stowed in the area between the two windscreens. We want to check the pitot tube on the pilot side, the right side of the helicopter, to ensure that it is in good condition, clear and unobstructed. The same for the pitot tube on the co-pilot side, good condition, clear, unobstructed. We also want to check the pedal area on the co-pilot and pilot side to ensure that area is clear and unobstructed, and also the general condition of the pedals and any hardware in this area. We'll check the fixed landing light for condition and security. Finally, we can kneel down to see the fuselage bottom. Here we'll check the condition of the bottom of the aircraft, also any antennas that are installed for their condition. We will also check the searchlight on the right-hand side of the bottom here and the left side of the bottom. We'll check those searchlights for general condition and security. And finally, we'll check the wire strike protection system, the bottom cutter, to ensure it is securely installed and in good condition. Once we've completed all of these tasks, our external pre-flight check is complete. This completes the exterior portion of the pre-flight check. Of course, any questions or concerns should be addressed before continuing. Once you are satisfied that the helicopter is in airworthy condition, return the flashlight and other items used, wash your hands, finalize any required paperwork, and move the helicopter outside where you can complete the interior checks and go fly. For me, a thorough pre-flight is more than a required step to achieving a successful flight. It also provides me comfort knowing that I have done my part to ensure that the helicopter is safe for flight. This video was filmed on an active flight line at our Airbus facility in Donauwörth, Germany. Hopefully the sights and sounds we all love were not too distracting. And finally, we would like to extend a special thanks to ADAC for allowing us to use their beautiful helicopter for our filming. Until next time, resume own navigation.